Hello, hello, hello everyone. I see that you speak Spanish and I see you don't speak English. So you just gonna vibe. Cause I don't speak no Spanish at all. Just gonna have to be here on vibes. I've been dropping it. I've been dropping the cap. I hope everybody's Friday has been going well, has been doing good. Hold on, because I did not tell this video to start. My stuff starting. That's weird. Anyway, so today I will be reacting to some Little Nightmares lore because what the fuck is going on in this game? What's going on with 6? What's going on with the runaway kid? Now how I chose these videos was like I typed in Little Nightmares lore. I looked at thumbnails, and if it had too many people in the thumbnail, I didn't bother picking that one because it had people like Mono, and I know Mono is from Little Nightmares 2, which I'll be playing. I'll start playing that next week. So I saw that if I saw anything like that or it didn't look like it was in the first Little Nightmares, I didn't choose it. I also chose a video that talks about the other game. Was it Very Little Nightmares? Something like that. It was like a little in between. I think it was like a mobile game or something like that. And it looked like it was connected to 6. So I was like, we'll do that one. We'll do that one. So we gonna go ahead and get into. Hold on. Put my headphones in. I would like to know why I'm hearing myself. Why? Why this whole time? Turn this off. Here we go. The food. I want to hear that. Okay. I'm echoing. All kind of stuff is happening. Why? Because it's me. It's because it's gotta be me or something like that. I don't know. If you was in the Twitch stream last night, you saw the foolishness and you saw the mess. Saw it all last night. You saw all the struggles and tribulations of a beginning stream, a beginning channel. Goodness gracious. Now, what's up, BDB? Okay. At like where's I'm doing pretty good today. I'm trying to figure out why um you know how it goes. I was trying to figure why. Why on today.
A while back.
There you go. So I was about to say, like, why? Why? It's always something. Okay. So how you been doing, BD? I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I was trying to figure this out by the audio. How you been? How you living and how you feeling? So we're just gonna start off with Little Nightmares Story Explained. Shout out to Gamer Salt. Shout out to Gamer Salt. Like, start the video. I don't have no snacks today, y'all.
I accidentally stumbled upon Little Nightmares a while back, and it blew me away to how amazing it was, which made me make a 10 Reasons to Play video about it. As Little Nightmares 2 is round the corner, let's go over Little Nightmares story to recap on what happened and get ready for the sequel.
This look wild.
Hi folks, I'm your narrator, and here is Little Nightmares Story Explained in a nutshell.
Next week. And
before we get into the video,
Google,
make sure to hit the subscribe button
go to
and
Google
the
and type
notification
in
bell,
Little Nightmares
and
2
beware,
and those images.
as there will be spoilers ahead.
And I saw a woman, I saw her
Little
neck
Nightmares
stretched
is
all the
an
way to the
indie-looking
heavens.
third-person horror game where you assume the role of a little girl called Six who wears a signature yellow raincoat, which admittedly looks very good with the game's scenery. The bright yellow color pops out from the dark and somber color palettes used in the environments. There's no combat involved in the game, but it's quite possibly one of the most detailed games I've ever played. It's got top-notch context, physics, and details. So much attention has been paid to the movements and gestures, which would take me over a few minutes to talk about. But I don't have to, as conveniently, you can watch a video I made previously about Little Nightmares, breaking it down in detail. An aspect of the game that makes it one of the best games out there, apart from art style, soundtrack, gameplay, and enemies, is the sheer crypticness of the story, to who each character is and what the hell is happening. So without much further ado, let's go over the story. Six, our protagonist, wakes up in a suitcase in a dark room connected to ventilation channels. Six is a 9-year-old girl who wears a signature yellow raincoat, who dreamt about a mysterious woman resembling a geisha prior to waking up. Something you might notice right away is the subtle tilting of the environment from side to side, which reflects on other items present in the environment, which roll side to side as well. Armed with only a lighter, Six traverses through dark and claustrophobic rooms, with the exception of large mechanical places with massive chains and staircases. Despite these claustrophobic-looking rooms, it's obvious that this mysterious place is designed for much larger inhabitants. As Six explores further, she encounters small gnome-looking creatures which are really skittish and harmless, and usually run away or observe her movements. Six has the option to hug them if she could manage getting close to them. As traversing further, Six witnesses a large skinny inhabitant who is hanging by the neck, presumably a suicide. Traversing further, Six reaches the prison where children are held prisoners. Six escapes carnivorous leeches that infest the depth of this place, and a pair of artificial eyes that turn children to stone if they are exposed to the light long enough. This is when we get our first glimpse of a large blind inhabitant with disproportionately long arms. Fortunately for Six, this man is blind and will only react to sound. Therefore, Six easily can evade him this time. Then soon after, Six experiences her first bout of debilitating hunger when an imprisoned child offers her a loaf of bread.
Oh, that's a child.
After moving further up, evading some more artificial eyes, she gets to the monitoring room where presumably this inhabitant with large arms monitors the children on their beds, who is also thought to be the prison guard. As Six then traverses through this place, she encounters this man's room, whom we then learn to be a janitor of a presumably much larger society with more inhabitants in. After a while, Six experiences another bout of hunger, falling into the janitor's trap in a cage where he placed some meat in.
That's that raw big toast you was eating. You're not gonna tell me this one. Oh, nah, not a thingamabobbing. But you're not gonna tell me that wasn't no raw big toe.
Six manages to break out of her cage, but makes no effort to save the other captured children. In fact, using one of the cages to jump over and open the door. She then encounters the janitor and runs away from him, ending up in a room filled with shoes, where Six escapes a mysterious monster residing under these shoes. After a tense chase
wonder
from the
what monster
janitor
was that
and
that
learning
was
a little bit
underneath the
more about
shoes?
his obsession with dolls, Six turns on a TV to distract the janitor, which has a weird nursery rhyme playing.
That was a nursery rhyme? That's creepy.
After another close chase, the janitor
say,
corners
which I would
Six in
watch
a
that.
room with a half-closed door
things
stuck
that I
on a
was watching
cage.
growing
The
up.
janitor tries to grab Six through the gap of the door, but Six manages to shut the door, severing the janitor's arms. Six travels
he still
further
had
up on
movement
an
in that one of
automatic
them
hook
arms. I
where
did
the
not
dead
notice
children
that. He
are
might have
wrapped in
got out.
paper and
Whoa.
sent up. In this section, we are presented with a gruesome scene of piles of dead children's bodies wrapped in paper. Six suffers from yet another bout of hunger, at which point she eats a live rat stuck on a mousetrap. Moving further through this place, we witness boxes upon boxes filled with bodies of dead children. Six then traverses through the kitchen where a grotesque-looking chef is preparing food. Soon after, we realize that there are two of these chefs, who seem to be twins.
Sharing
Then
that
finally,
small,
we
that,
are presented
them
with a
small
washing
ass
place
beds.
where there are plates
And don't
upon
put them
plates
together. You're
making
supposed to put them together
towers,
so one of them can
presumably
fit in
after
it.
a huge feast. Six manages to escape the twins, finding a tiny window which shows us a glimpse of what this place is and who the inhabitants are. We learn that this place is a massive underwater vessel, hence the side-to-side movement, which welcomes a multitude
I
of
didn't get
obese
underwater, I
guests
got
from a ship. To our horror,
chips.
Six reaches a Japanese-style restaurant on the higher level, where these obese guests are gorging on piles of meat, presumably from dead children and other animals. This feast is overseen by the gushy-looking woman who Six dreamt of in the beginning of the game. As Six tries to find the exit, some of these guests try to capture Six and consume her, while majority of them are incapable of standing
weird,
and
because
usually
y'all was
crawl.
already eating
At a
something.
final
Y'all was
pursuit,
already eating
several guests scramble
deep
over
fried
each other
chow.
after Six, but she manages to escape. Soon after escaping these gluttonous, grotesque-looking guests, Six experiences yet another
go with
bout
this
of
bull.
hunger. This time, a gnome is holding a sausage
go.
and offering it to Six, but instead of the sausage, Six eats the gnome alive,
That's
showing no
crazy.
remorse whatsoever. Now keep this part in mind as we're gonna get back to it in the DLC section. Six follows the lady
Nah, I
up
don't need
into
to
her
keep it in mind.
quarters,
It's
which
already in
include a
mind.
lot of broken mirrors, a hint for the ending. At a final battle, Six, being cornered by the lady, finds an unbroken mirror and holds it against her, which disables the lady.
And the
As the
lady
lady
dumb, 'cause
lies
why she
down
ain't- why she
defenseless,
ain't
Six
crack
experiences
that
yet
one?
another bout of
She
hunger.
knows she can't look at mirrors
and you
like that.
guessed it, she starts eating the lady,
With her ugly self.
starting from her neck. This allows Six to absorb the lady's magical powers. This time, we take control of a badass Six with a different camera angle, walking in one line between the obese guests. As the guests try to attack her, one by one she uses her newly absorbed powers
my
and
thing.
kills them. Six reaches a
So if I'm
staircase
the
which she
person all the
climbs
way
up
up to the
and
front,
passes through a door
and I
into
see
sunlight, while the gnomes
this
Six
little
hug
girl
throughout the
sucking
game
the
gather
life out
and
of
watch her
people.
leave. In a post-credit scene, Six is seen by the entrance of the maw, the underwater vessel, while a foghorn is heard in the distance. There are many theories surrounding who Six is, how she ended up there, and why she gets caught by the hunter in Little Nightmares 2, while having powers which can drain people from their lives. And also who the lady is, why she wears a mask, and everything else, which
I'm
we
getting
will
a
talk
spoiler.
about on a different video. There are 3 DLCs in a
So
pack
that
called
helps-
The Secrets of the Maw, which entails the
So we
story
gonna pause
of
right there. So that heifer is in Little Nightmares too. I'm sick of it.
another child, this time a boy, dubbed as the Runaway Kid. Runaway Kid's story runs parallel to Six's.
freeze
The
boy right
Runaway
here.
Kid wakes up similarly like Six from a nightmare, which he sees himself swimming in darkness before being dragged
I think
underwater by a
it gets a good
mysterious
touch.
monster. After leaving the nursery,
the
he witnesses
clips
janitor
that he
chasing after an escaping child. The protagonist finds a flashlight from another escaping girl, who he follows for a brief period. The runaway kid finds himself in the depth
She
of the
probably
mall,
got
which
caught,
is
that little
heavily
girl.
flooded,
I
where he
thought
needs
she
to
died,
jump
but she
on
probably a
platforms to
gnome.
avoid being dragged by a mysterious creature under the water.
I ain't
It
noticed
turns
that
out
either,
that
to
the
be
depths
honest.
are home to the Granny, the creature under
I
the
see
water.
it
The
now.
runaway kid manages to push a TV
But I
into the
didn't notice
water
that
and
before.
presumably electrocuting the
Try
Granny.
be too much going on.
As the runaway kid climbs
this
on a
game
tall
for you to
wooden
be
ladder,
noticing
he
little
then gets
details
caught
like
by
that
the janitor and
on
put
the
in a
first
cage
go-around.
next to Six. The janitor pulls the runaway kid cages away, paralleling Six's campaign just before she wakes up and
What's
breaks
up,
the
B?
cage. The runaway kid is then wrapped
EFG.
in a paper being ascended by one of the hooks. He loosens himself up and drops on a new level. In this level, he witnesses the gnomes working by keeping the
Oh, boy,
furnace
didn't even do
of the
his
mall
job, 'cause
running.
I think he was
With the
supposed to
help
hit
of the
little boy
gnomes,
over
he
the head
manages
before
to
he
ascend
wrapped
to
him up in that
another
paper.
level using a bucket lift. When he gets to the new level, he witnesses some of the gnomes standing in front of a different furnace, which light casts a shadow behind the gnomes in the shape of children. After
I didn't
leaving the
even
area
notice
through a
that.
crack, the runaway kid finds himself on
I
top
didn't
of
even
an elevator
peep
the
that.
lady is standing in. After leaving the elevator, the runaway kid enters the lady's residence, including her portraits. The runaway kid is then attacked by some shadow figures resembling children wearing a porcelain mask. The runaway kid destroys them by shining the flashlight on them. The runaway kid then finds the lady looking at herself in the mirror,
gosh
which reveals to
almighty.
us that she has a deformed and grotesque face. The lady then is alerted
How
to the
she
runaway
fit
kid's
all
presence
that
and
underneath
turns him
that
into a
mask?
gnome. He then finds himself in a guest room. With a sausage lying around in the middle, he approaches the sausage and the screen fades to black, implying that he is indeed the gnome that Six eats after she escapes the horde of guests and has another bout of hunger. There is eventually shown to be a
Oh.
television set which shows a figure reminiscent of the Thin Man, which we are going to face in the Little Nightmares 2. This sheds even more
He was
light
just
on the gravity of the
spoiling the
event
whole
that Six
shit.
ate a gnome. She ate a runaway kid like herself. The hypocrisy is great here and makes you consider if Six is any better than the gluttonous guests. Six has a choice to eat a sausage, but instead chooses to eat a living gnome, who turned out to be another protagonist of ours in the DLC.
It turned out to be a whole
Wow.
child.
This game was simply brilliant, yet troubling. This brings us to the end of the video, folks. That was certainly some
Not him. Little Nightmare. I know this heifer is the second one. I didn't even know she was the second one. I now know. We running from Thin Man. All right, so next video. Next video. He just explained the story, which I got the story, understood the story. The mall in Little Nightmares. Okay, so this video is by what's it? Jericho. I will go ahead and give him a like. Start the video.
Chaos of the world outside, the moor is the only place that makes sense.
What?
Apparently. Hello viewers, my name is Terrico and welcome to my channel where I explore, explain and expand upon the darkest worlds in video games. Today I'm taking a closer look at the moor, the original location from the first game and probably my favourite. I'm going to explain what the moor is, some of its possible inspirations, some of the metaphors and things you may have missed around the moor, and also, as always, I'm going to give my own personal interpretation of the whole thing.
Okay.
So what exactly is the moor? The moor is a giant metallic structure. It is one that rises out of the sea once a year, always at the same
Once a
time,
year?
but never in the same place. We only see a portion of the moor in
it's
the game. We see
exclusive.
the entrance from the outside, and we also see the top of the moor. The top of the moor is this little island structure, and when the
Hold
moor is
on.
fully
Now,
submerged,
go back.
this is the moor in the game. We
I want y'all to look at this picture. Okay. I want y'all to look at this picture right here. I want you to look. Now, when we was in the game, these people were coming in droves. They was coming in droves. You mean to tell me all them folks was on this little ass boat? Is that what you telling me? Ain't no way.
see the entrance from the outside, and we also see the top of the moor. The top of the moor is this little island structure, and when the moor is fully submerged, this is the only part that sticks out. It looks just like an island with this smokestack or chimney on top. Now the chimney is there for a pretty obvious reason. The moor is powered by coal, and burning coal produces toxic fumes, which, if we're allowed to gather inside the moor, would kill everyone pretty quickly, so that's why it has this smokestack. The moor is absolutely gigantic, and we actually only see a small portion of it in the game. We do see in the concept art that the moor is actually much larger than we originally presumed, and it looks like it goes all the way down to the ocean floor, with these trolling nets, which makes a lot of sense since we know there's a lot of fish aboard the moor, and this is probably how it catches them. If you thought that the moor looked slightly familiar but you could never put your finger on it, that's because a lot of Little Nightmares is inspired by Studio Ghibli movies. The moor looks very similar in a lot of ways to Howl's Moving Castle. Both of these giant mechanical moving structures, although Howl's Moving Castle stays on land and the moor goes in the water, but either way they both have these almost facial features, with the moor looking like this giant mouth, which makes sense because the moor does mean mouth. The word moor is another word for mouth or throat, although it's more often used for mouth. If you think about it, the maw of the beast means the beast's mouth, the part that swallows you, right? Which makes a lot of sense, which we'll talk about later. The interior of the maw also has large inspirations from Studio Ghibli movies, although most of the... Many of the weird and wonderful designs have been, I don't want to say copied, but at least inspired from several of the locations in Spirited Away, which is honestly pretty cool.
Inspired and
Spirited
tainted.
Away was whimsical with a side of darkness, Little Nightmares is dark with a side of darkness in a dark sauce with a frosting and sprinkles of dark, just in case it wasn't quite dark enough. So the maw surfaces once a year to essentially, well, consume people. Every year the guests arrive at the maw to essentially feast. You could think of this as almost like an all-you-can-eat buffet cruise, although we know that none of the guests ever return, and it's a little bit strange as to why these guests would willingly go there. We have a lot of explanations for this, but the most obvious one is that the lady is casting some sort of...
Is that what he said? Did he say they never return? And Ben, I follow your Twitch channel. I didn't see any like past streams or anything like that. I don't know if you have it set to where people can't see your streams afterwards, or you just haven't streamed yet.
The most obvious one is that the lady only go there. Although we know that none of the guests ever return, and it's a little bit strange as to why these guests would willingly go there.
That's what I want to know. Why? So they literally going, knowing they finna die. Is that why they eating children? Like they? Did you? So let me explain like what some human. If a person feel like they have nothing to lose, like truly, absolutely, truly feel like they have nothing to lose, some crazy stuff start coming out of it. Crazy things, like, and we see it in shows and stuff like that, like Squid Games and stuff like that. Like when you feel like or perceive yourself as rock bottom or this the end and all this other stuff, you start doing all kind of stuff. So with these people coming here knowing that they will not return, is this why they giving themselves permission to not only like eat like this, because you see them like eat like this, but to willingly know that they're eating children and want to eat? That's crazy. I would check my settings. Okay, because I definitely was gonna like have it up today to kind of like check it out, and I was like, I don't anything
Nations for this, but the most obvious one is that the lady is casting some sort of spell. The lady is the overseer of the maw. We don't know if she originally owned it. We also know that there probably used to be other ladies as well, so we don't know where they all went, but we can probably assume that it wasn't a nice happy ending for them.
Probably not.
Now though, there is only one lady and a handful of staff that run the maw. Again, we don't know exactly.
So he said that it's possible that they're under a spell. That's why they come. I'm not so what I think is they're coming because it's an exclusive thing. They can do this how they want. They can eat children when they want. Blah. But they don't come back because the lady is absorbing them. If we think back when Six killed the lady, and Six was able to absorb their soul, spirits, whatever she was doing at the end. So I'm assuming that's what the type of power the lady possessed herself. So that's why they're not coming back. And she's casting a spell for them to come in. If she's doing that, that's a powerful spell because
the staff from the
they
mall,
got to be
maybe
coming
they're
from far
paid, it does
wide
seem
because
to be
they
their
have
job.
to.
But we
They have to be coming from far wide because this thing shows up in different places. Like you see it, it looks like it's in the middle of the water. And they came on this little bitty boat.
We know that Roger wasn't originally born here. He was a stranger and he found his way onto the moor. So it seems that like some people are being convinced to work here, maybe by pay or the promise of something else. Convinced to work here. Only born here. We don't know exactly why the staff run the moor, maybe they're paid. It does seem to be their job. But we know that Roger wasn't originally born here. He was a stranger and he found his way onto the moor.
Who was Roger?
So it seems that they're paid. It does seem to. Don't know where they all went. But we can probably assume that it wasn't a nice happy ending for them. Now though, there is only one lady and a handful of staff that run the moor. Again, we don't know exactly why the staff run the moor, maybe they're paid, it does seem to be their job. But we know that Roger wasn't originally born here. He was a stranger and he found his way onto the moor. So it seems that like some people are being convinced to work here, maybe by pay or the promise of something else. So the guests board the moor where they are given essentially as much food as they can eat, and the guests really do love food, and it's not just like they are hungry. In fact, they are described as having a never-ending hunger. They will continuously eat, and we can see that in the guests' behavior. They just sort of cram the food into their mouth and they never stop until they sleep, which they presumably would wake up and continue, although we know that in the moor, most of these guests are killed and then fed to other guests. We also know that the moor has a holding area.
So my joke before that Six was in a raw big toe. That she was eating a raw big toe. It's not out of line. Because they are, my God, they are getting people to come on this boat, stuffing them up, killing them, chopping them up to feed the next group. What's going on back there? He chopping up a person. I knew some of this meat was like really big. Like, so the fish makes sense. They own the ocean. The fish made sense. I didn't understand the other cuts of meat. I didn't understand where they was getting the other cuts of meat. Now we know it's people.
Or a prison where children are kept captive. Now, the children do seem to be cared for. There are things in place that seem to try and make them stay more comfortable. But eventually the children are wrapped up and sent to the kitchens. Now, it's not 100% clear whether the ones that are sent to the kitchens are ones that died, or whether these are ones that just gave up. We know that for some reason, children just seem to give up hope in this world, and either way, eventually the children are sent to the kitchens where it can be presumed that they are chopped up and probably put through this machine made into sausages for the guests to eat. This kind of makes sense because the guests have such an insatiable hunger that they eat so much food that the moor needs every scrap of food it can get to satisfy these guests' hunger, enough for them to fall asleep so that they can be chopped up and killed and whatever else happens to them. We see from the game that there are a bunch of different areas in the moor, Like I said, there's this holding area, there are the depths where the granny lives for some reason, we have the kitchens, which are ginormous, we have the serving area where the guests eat, and then there are a bunch of different areas
And they
that seem
eating
to
dirty
used to
food,
be
too.
accessible. We see a
But this
lot of
place
them
is
have
dirty.
leftover belongings, but we never see any people there. So it looks like there used to be many more people on the moor than there are now, though for whatever reason, there aren't as many as there used to be. Probably because in this world, most people just end up dead. That's probably why. So that's what the moor is. Let's talk about the more metaphorical representation or the themes of the moor, which tie in very, very well
Not
with
like
the first game.
get some good finger
The
food.
first game was all about hunger. Apparently I said that quite often in my last video on the hunger. Who would have thought? But we can actually draw a parallel with the moor and the guests. As I said earlier, the moor is being described as the only place that makes sense, and for a long time I didn't really understand that. I mean, let's be honest, the moor makes absolutely no sense to me. We don't know who pilots it, we don't know why this happens, we don't know where it came from, who built it, we don't know really anything about it. None of it makes sense to me. But the more I thought about it, it actually does kind of make sense. We know that there are rules in this world, and one of those rules is that people and things get hungry. We know that animals and people, aside from some of the monsters, well, that's probably a topic for another video, but all of the living things in this world get hungry, and that is just like our own world. We get
I'm
hungry.
finna say that's
Living
so normal.
things need to eat to survive. If you stop eating, you die. This is where the parallel between the moor and the guests comes in. The moor, just like the guests, if it stops eating, it will also die. Now, I don't mean literally eating. The moor doesn't literally eat people, arguably, but more metaphorically. If we look at the entrance of the moor,
might be
it
both.
looks like a mouth. Makes sense. It's called the
It
moor.
may-
It looks
that
like
may
a
be-
mouth. But the guests actually bored the moor through this mouth, and that is a metaphorical representation that the moor is consuming them. Moreover, I actually feel like this all kind of makes sense. Think about the moor and what's in there and all of the things inside the moor that have to have come from somewhere. We see that the kitchens are fully stocked, but not just from meat, which we know some of the meat comes from weird places, but it has vegetables
place.
and fruit and things like that, which must have come from somewhere. There's
It
no
does,
way
and
they
you
were
don't see
grown
not
down
now
here because
guys
there's no
eating
sunlight, so they must have come
carrot,
from
a
outside
apple,
the
or-
moor. We can say the same thing for the coal. There are huge deposits of coal down in the depths of the moor. They can't have come from here. Coal is essentially fossilized trees, and we find them in mines. There's no way that this was mined from inside the moor, so it must have been brought here, which probably cost something. It's not for free, right? You have to go and buy these things. So where does the money come from to buy all of these supplies?
From people.
Well, pretty simply, the most simple explanation for that is that the guests are supplying the money for all of this. The
Yeah.
guests are probably paying a fee to arrive at the moor, and hell, even if they aren't, even if it was free to get onto the moor, well, they all end up dead. What happens to all of their belongings, their possession, and yes, their money? I think that the lady takes all of this and uses all of that to fund the moor so the moor can keep going. In that way, we can think about the moor as having a requirement of food too. The guests require food to live, and the moor requires guests to live too. So in that way, the moor
Them guests
does
ain't
make
eat.
sense. It follows
They
the
eat.
same rules as living creatures on this planet. Even though it's not necessarily a living creature itself, it follows the same rules as a living creature. Kind of like the porcelain children in Little Nightmares 2. We don't really know how they were made or why, but they're made out of porcelain.
you
They're
is
not real
spoiling the
children.
heck-
It's like
Everybody just
everything
wants
else.
to spoil 'em.
It's behaving like almost everything else in this world. Six is hungry, we don't know why, but she is. The lady is hungry, although I've previously said she has a different type of hunger than Six, she's still power hungry. Everything in this world follows the same rules, and the moor is no different, and that's
But
why
why
the
is
moor makes
Six
sense.
why Six so
This
hungry?
brings me on to another point, a point that I could probably make a whole other separate video for, but I thought I would put it in here for completeness sake. What happens to the moor after Six kills the lady? Well, quite simply, the moor's going to die. Without the lady overseeing things, guests aren't going to be drawn to the moor anymore. Without the guests, there is now no money for supplies, and without supplies, the staff have no reason to continue working there. They have nothing
I
to
mean,
feed any
that's- I
future
mean-
potential guests. Quite simply put,
'Cause she
the
damn
moor
sure
is
don't-
now going to die. Once
He didn't
again,
take the lady's
like
place.
everything else in this world, without a food supply, the moor will die. It follows the rules, it makes sense. So there we have it, the moor explained. The moor actually contains far more secrets within if you actually deep dive into
Okay. That's basically the end. Okay, so that's what's going. The mall. See, when I first said it the first time, it sounded like mall. Okay, you streaming around now? Okay. So, okay, this is also his. I didn't even notice this was also his video. He got another video called. This is the same person. He got another video too called like explaining the gnomes, but I don't think we need explaining about the gnomes. So the next one, the next video we're gonna be watching is about the hunger. Like, why are these people so doggone hungry? What's wrong with them?
Or should I say the hungers, because there are actually a few different types. So the hunger in Little Nightmares, or should I say the hungers, because there are actually a few different types of hunger in the Little Nightmares series.
The food ain't even cooked. Mind you, they got
them. And as always, Little Nightmares is a very abstract series. Nothing can really be proven in Little Nightmares, and everything's open to interpretation. So I'm not saying that what I'm going to explain today is 100% confirmed factual, but I am going to try and look at what we can actually see in the game as kind of fact to prove or to explain the different types of hunger that we see, particularly in Little Nightmares 1, but also in the series as a whole. So also very quickly, if you like this video, please let me know, because this is the first time that I've done an unscripted deep dive explanation, whatever you want to call it. And
hold on. Peep. We don't see no other person. So you remember the person who gave us the bread? We don't see no other person that person's size. It's either known, very small children, very big adults. That person right there is some type of survivor. They are some type of survivor, because that means that they don't survive long enough. And that other little girl, in the DLC, she was kind of tall. She was kind of tall too, taller than the two main characters that we played. That means that child, or those children, figured out how to survive long enough to become that size. Because usually the small children are getting caught and packaged up and turned into sausage links. And the fact they found that bread, so they've been living in this mall for a long time, just surviving.
And if you like this, I will make more. Very, very simple. So
maybe they can.
In Little Nightmares, there's multiple different types of it, and it seems to affect different people differently. Now, we don't know if there is just one source of hunger that affects different people in different ways, or if there are multiple different types of hunger. I'm kind of leaning towards the latter, but let me explain the different types first. So, the guests. The guests are probably the best example because they're the most obvious. The guests seem to be affected by some form of hunger that makes them desperate for food. It's not just like a normal hunger. Like, I'm a big guy, right? I like food. I like to eat a lot. You can probably tell if you've ever seen my live streams. I like food a lot. But I eat, and when I'm full, I stop eating until I get hungry again. The guests, however, they never seem to really stop needing food. They will just continually just shovel food into their mouths. They don't even really chew it. They just sort of shovel it until they pass out. Be raw. And I assume that if they were to wake up, they would begin again. Although we kind of know that a lot of the guests seem to get chopped up anyway.
Child, once they go to sleep,
their hunger just never stops.
Once they go to sleep,
not only can they not stop eating, but they also seem really desperate to eat six as well. And this one's a really weird one because it's not like they just want to eat anything living, because they don't eat each other, and they completely ignore the gnomes too. And I mean, I assume that they ignore the staff members as well, because we never actually see them interact, but, you know, who serves them the food? So it's not like they just want to eat anything living, but they have a real sort of obsession with trying to eat six. They will drop all the food that they're eating. They will clamber over, clamber? Is clamber a word? They will climb
gonna say
over
it's
each
a
other
word
to
today.
try and get to Six to eat her. They're desperate to eat her, which is really interesting. And it could be that they're so bored of just eating food because they eat so much that they're desperate for a new flavor, if you will. And as harsh as it is to say in that world, maybe
That's a wild statement. That's a wild statement. Imagine, imagine you so bored a small child, because I had said it during this time. I said, what they want with this girl? This little girl is skinty. She don't got no meat on her bones. She is a pig. She is bone and a little bit of gristle. No meat.
maybe Six is a delicacy. I don't know. But I assume they would try and eat any of the other children if they could, which is also really interesting when you think about it, that they're already being fed children. I guess they just don't know. Or maybe they do know. Maybe that's one of the draws that brings them
They
to the
gotta
mall.
know.
But we also know that the guests
I don't
are
know. I
under
don't know
some
if they
sort of
know
spell or
the big
trance. I
piece
mean, I know other creators have
is
pointed out that when they enter the mall,
adults.
they're kind of
I
walking
think
in
they know about them
unison and they're chanting as they do. But even in the
And that's
official
why they here in
website,
the
it
first
says
place.
that the lady is casting a spell over them, or it's implied that a spell has been cast over them, which might be a metaphorical spell, or it could be an actual real-life spell, because we know the lady has magic. So that's the guest hunger, that's their hunger. Well, you might think that Six is under the same effects of the hunger, but she's not.
think
She's
she
under
cares
a
on this-
completely
I think she's
different
just looking
type
like,
of hunger.
look at all that
Let
power,
me
look at all
explain.
that energy
So
I'm about to suck
Six
up, look at all
isn't
that
hungry
money I'm
like the
about to
guests.
see.
She's not hungry all the time like they are. In fact, the whole kitchen segment of the game, Six never eats once. She goes past many
should
different
have.
types
She
of
should be eating
food,
them damn
meat
carrots
and
and-
non-meat, and she doesn't seem to care. She doesn't seem to need to eat them. She's not hungry whatsoever. In fact, there's no
Is
option to
he?
try and even eat it at all.
I
So
don't
her
know.
hunger isn't always on
I don't
like
think it
theirs
matters.
is. Now, secondly, Six goes through these small bouts of hunger. She has like little moments of it where she's really desperately hungry, more desperately than the guests as well. If you look when she gets hungry, she's bent over in pain. The guests don't seem to be so hungry that they're in pain, although we don't actually necessarily see if they get to that point. We
I
see
was
them
gonna say, they
walking
might
into
get to
the
that
mall,
point.
and then we see them eating. We don't really see them away from food, so maybe they could be under the same effect. But Six is in real pain when she needs to eat. And secondly, every time she's about to get hungry, she starts to cough, which to me implies some form of sickness. And we know she had this cough in Little Nightmares 2. And you might just say, well, yeah, she was out in the Pale City with no coat on. Of course she's going to get a cough. But her cough only appears right before she gets hungry. So these things are definitely linked in some way. So for me, Six has this sickness which causes her hunger, and her hunger is more extreme than the guest's hunger. And to go one step further with that, Six only...
I paused because he said it's more, I guess because she pain would consider it more extreme. Me personally, I consider the guest hunger more extreme because they are continuously shoving food down their throat, not chewing. It don't even have to be cooked. I feel like that's more extreme.
seem to be able to satiate her hunger with live food, or there's definitely a clear progression. She eats the bread at the beginning of the game, and that's fine, but then she seems to need more and more, but not more in quantity.
I didn't even see little dude. I know. Was it Freeze? It was Fire or Freeze. Had said, "Oh yeah, they know they saw her." This is what they were talking about. I didn't like up top here. I did not see little guy right there witnessing the whole transaction.
She needs more in substance, if you will. She needs more.
And like,
I'm trying to say this without getting demonetized on YouTube, but she seems to need to eat more people. She goes from bread to a rat to a gnome, which she eats the gnome instead of the sausage, and then finally she consumes part of the lady. So she seems to be on a progression, whereas the guests, they also seem to be on a progression.
Yeah, they
but
already
they
where
aren't
she's
affected
at.
in the same way she is. They just seem desperate to eat her, whereas she seems in physical pain. It's like she needs it, whereas they're just really greedy. So already there's two different types of hunger. Now the children in the game aren't affected by the hunger either. We know that they need to eat because we see that in the comics and we see that in Little Nightmares 1. We see the kid with the bread, but he has food and he shares it, which to me implies that he's not under any effects or any crazy hunger effects, because if he was, why would he share his food? You know, the guests don't share their food with each other. They seem desperate to eat Six, and he just gives his food freely to Six. So he doesn't seem to be under any effects of hunger. So we could assume that children in this world aren't under the effects of hunger, and Six only is because she's either sick or because of Shadow Six, because Shadow Six appears every time Six gets hungry. It happens all the way through Little Nightmares 1 and at the end of Little Nightmares 2 if you've got the hidden ending. Shadow Six appears just before Six gets hungry. So there is definitely a link between Shadow Six and her hunger, and the children don't seem to have any of this. We never see Mono get hungry.
Not they
None of the children
separating her,
seem
talking
to be
about Shadow
hungry.
Six.
We
Not
do
a
however
six.
see in the comic the kid is hungry, like he's not eaten for a while, but it's not the same hunger. So we have at least 3 different types of hunger, but I think there's another type of hunger too. If you look at the game, it was originally going to be called Hunger, and the developers changed their mind on that one, which is probably a smart decision, because if you go and type in hunger into Google or something, it's probably going to bring back
Getting them
restaurants in your local area or something stupid like that. So it seems to be a very clever decision, but the idea that the game was going to be called Hunger should tell you that hunger is a very, very important theme in this game. But I don't think it's just hunger as in needing food. I think there's a deeper message, a metaphor, if you will, in the game that not a lot of people talk about. So when I talk about the hunger, I do think that the game is a metaphor for society and for us, you and I, and how we behave and, you know, the darker parts of ourselves. And if you take that as an example, you could go, well, obviously in the Western world, for example, you know, obesity is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in the US and in the UK, for an example. So yeah, okay, we have a problem with eating
I didn't
too
know
much
the
food,
UK had an
especially
obese
eating
problem.
bad food. But I think it goes deeper than that.
Now he talking about y'all, what y'all hungry for? Y'all hungry for? Tell y'all mine right now. Laziness. I just want to chill. That's what I'm hungry for. I want to chill. That and fried food.
I think it goes more towards our need for consumption, and a really good example to highlight this is the ladies' hunger. Now, there's different types of hunger in real life. There's hunger for food, but what about things like power hunger? You know, being hungry for more power. Some people are we say they're hungry for power so that they will do anything to get promotion or do
I
anything
think she
to
hungry for
get more
power.
power
I
for
think she
themselves.
hungry for
I
beauty.
think this is what the ladies' hunger is. And if
Because
you
she
look at
has
the
like a lot
Maw,
of,
there are pictures around the
like,
Maw that seem to imply
mannequins
that
and
there were multiple
mirrors and
ladies
stuff
or
like
multiple
that.
geishas, whatever you want to call them, that used to run the Maw, and now there's only one. And I think that possibly the lady got rid of all the other ones because she wanted total power. She's power hungry. And when she finally did, she finally completely took over the Maw and made it her own. She's then kind of stuck. Well, what does she do? You know, she has all the power now. What's her next step? I think that metaphor there could really relate to society in a lot of ways. You know, there's a lot of people out there that will do anything to get more power. And I think that the developers were trying to.
And it's probably
kind of
saying something
mirror
too, like, as far as the lady goes, like, when she has that mask on, you know, you kind of will perceive her as very pretty. You know what I'm saying? But she, underneath the mask, she's really not. She's really grotesque looking. Because I'm still trying to figure out how she fit out of all that underneath the mask. I'm still trying to figure out that one. Like how she even pulling that one off is what I would like to know. But you know, it's something to be said with her being power hungry. She got what she wanted, and she's over the Maw. It's only her. She's the only one that's over this. She runs the establishment, and she also sucks the life out of other people, and she's still not satisfied. what would gain her that satisfaction?
Our own deepest and darkest sort of
Going to
behaviors.
Florida, Dr.
Being very power hungry
Dr. Miami
is
do-
often not very good for the people
Facebook.
around you, as an example. And I think that
She
when
could
we look
afford
at
it,
Little
though.
Nightmares as a series, the horror, or the implied horror, is in what could be real within you. You know, we look at the Little Nightmares 2 and how they're all addicted to TV shows, and that's scary because you're like, holy crap. But we have consuming too much food is to affect different people, different physical, tangible. It's so there we have much medium way that consume. That's the hunger in Little Nightmares. It's not
Okay, because yeah, you the way I'm gonna know the whole I'm gonna know the whole story. I'm going to know the entire story of Little Nightmares, the whole thing. Is there anything else? I have one other video. I have one more, but I wanted to see. It was another video that I wanted to watch, but I was scared to watch it because I was scared of spoilers. But I believe at this point we passed it. We passed this past that point. Because that's exactly what's happening. All right, so the next video is by somebody different. It's called Super Horror Bro, and they got let me go ahead and give you that light. And this is about the little mobile game that came out, and people are saying it was in that description it said it was a prequel. So
hey guys, Super Horror Bro Mike here, and in today's video we take a look at Very Little Nightmares, the mobile prequel to the original Little Nightmares game, as we explore its mysterious story, creepy
shoulda
cast of
died.
characters, and how it connects to Six's adventure aboard for more. If you're interested in seeing the entirety
they're going another doggone gnome. Excuse me.
Think this is worth
I know people tell me I should get an ad
of
blocker,
Very
but if I
Little
get an ad
Nightmares,
blocker, that
and
means I
check out
can't
my
support,
recent
like,
playthrough of the game. I'll leave a link to part 1 at the end of this video. But for now, let's kick off with an overview of what exactly this pint-sized version of Little Nightmares is all about. A girl in a yellow raincoat awakens aboard an air balloon which has crashed into the attic of an old house. This girl may look like Six, but is in fact a completely different character. More on that later. The house in question is a massive death trap known as the Nest, a mansion
Not a
in a
death
state
trap.
of decay sat atop a cliff jetting far out above the ocean below. It
Now,
isn't
hold
long
on,
before the
back
girl
up.
in a raincoat
Back
trap
up
known
right
as
now.
the Nest, a mansion in a state of decay sat atop a cliff.
How is this structurally sound? For you to look at this. Look at this. It's real skinny right here at the bottom. It's real skinny. Ain't no if the wind blow, it's gonna topple over, and it's heavy on the left side.
Cliff jetting far out above the ocean below. It isn't long before the girl in the raincoat runs into another lost child. This little girl seems afraid and is always on the run. She stays one step ahead of us throughout the entirety of the game. The room we first meet this mystery child in is full of cages. These cages look identical to
They
those
do.
seen aboard the Moor, and before long we free another imprisoned child from one. This indicates the Nest is not simply an old mansion, but is also being used as a prison too. A
Everything
holding
used as a
ground,
prison, right?
but to what end? A little later we discover a familiar sight, the enchanted
go with
eyes,
this
which of course
eyeball.
acted as a security system aboard for Moor, both used as a camera-like device to monitor the children, and also a Medusa-like trap, freezing anyone who met their glare and turning them to sand.
Yep.
It is interesting to find the
they
Nest
died
using
on
the
purpose,
same
'cause they coulda
technology
made
as
that.
the Moor, suggesting the two are connected in some way. As we venture further into this world, you'll notice several other stark connections between these two nightmarish locales. Around this point
First
in
of all,
our
the structure's
adventure, we meet a
good.
new
God,
enemy
hold
type
on.
known as the
Hold on. We got back that up.
adventure. We meet
I ain't know I got it right there on it.
Around this
Yo, what is going on with his feet? Are they feet? Are they hands? Nah, cause that look like an ankle bone. Why is feet doing that? Oh, she was. Where she played at?
point in our adventure, we meet a new enemy type known as the Craftsman. Now, much like the janitor from Little Nightmares, this Craftsman has very long arms. However, unlike the janitor, he also has very long legs. These gangly legs are twisted and bound to a wheelchair, so it seems as though the Craftsman is himself a prisoner, strapped into this chair with limited movement. He doesn't have any supernatural powers, however his reach is impressive, as is the speed he moves at.
Right, bubble the feet, just like that.
The Craftsman wears a mask, apron and goggles. This suggests he may act as a surgeon of some kind, performing hideous surgical procedures on those imprisoned within the nest. However, more likely, as his name suggests, he is simply a craftsman, a worker who created dolls, their wigs and clothing for the lady of the house. However, if we want to venture into darker territory, and let's face it,
didn't Chicken Nugget also make dolls? We saw that in the DLC. He made dolls too.
Little Nightmares frequently does.
Is that the same person?
It could be suggested that the children captured and housed within this mansion are indeed the dolls themselves. We see an entire room full of salt, and salt is often used to keep meat from rotting. And it is possible that the wigs we see are made from real human hair.
Wait. Wait. Now he got the bundles. That's a wild.
Real human hair. Moreover, we see crudely stitched leather outstretched in various rooms around the Craftsman's lair. Leather is usually formed from cow skin, but there are no cows around these parts. And there's also something strange about the way the dolls we see later on in the game look. They appear almost too realistic. Maybe they are, and perhaps this Craftsman is also a taxidermist, one who doesn't just stuff animals, but also humans. After escaping the Craftsman, the girl finds herself inside a box with one of those all too familiar eye symbols etched upon it. The more we see these eyes appear, the more we must wonder, is this nest an institution built to provide for the Maw, or vice versa? The girl begins exploring the lower levels of the mansion and runs into another horrifying sight. The butler is the second new enemy found in Very Little Nightmares. He is able to levitate.
Yo, that made my back hurt looking at him. Whoa, why is his hand cut? Oh, he a prisoner. Look at that.
A few inches above the floor and is constantly bent over, his hands bound behind his back, a lock preventing them from release. It seems both the Craftsman and this butler are not simply servants of a house, but rather slaves. The butler's creepiest trait is his telekinetic ability, which he uses to throw objects at the player in order to kill them, rather than chasing them down. If spotted, he instantly takes control of the environment and halts the girl's progress. The butler seems to maintain order within the house. He does the laundry, makes food, and waits hand and foot on the lady of the house, who we will meet shortly. Before long, the girl in the raincoat navigates her way down into the garbage disposal. Here we run into an unseen horror living beneath the filthy debris of this dumpster.
There's always something.
It is very similar in nature to the shoe monster from the original Little Nightmares.
What is that?
We also find the wreckage of an old plane down here. How it got here is a bit of a mystery in itself, and it's creepy to consider the residents of this mansion may be bringing down aircraft just to collect more children for delivery to the Maw. Also, why is there so much trash down here in the first place, and where is it all coming from? A best guess would be to assume that the nest is not always this quiet, and perhaps frequently used by other guests with big appetites, much as we saw during the banquet sequences in the original game.
I figure it's just years
After
of trash.
escaping the dumpster grounds and finally outsmarting the butler, the girl in the raincoat escapes into a trap door, where she briefly encounters the mystery child again before dropping down a wall cavity and emerging inside a playroom. Here we see drawings of the familiar gnomes on the wall, as well as encounter many of them hiding about the place. Anyone familiar with Little Nightmares will know the troubling story behind these cute little critters.
So
They were
who
once
here is
normal
turning them
children
into
before
gnomes?
being transformed by the lady, as seen during the end of the Secrets of Amor DLC.
Are they transporting the gnomes? Why would you take the time to do that?
For those who don't know, the lady was the final enemy to be encountered aboard the Moor. She ran the show and was responsible for all the hideous goings-on orchestrated within its walls. She also possessed magical witch-like abilities, hence her ability to transform children into gnomes. So this means the lady either lived here within the nest, or at the very least visited it in the past. Backing up this conclusion are paintings we find while exploring this area of the house.
Oh, is that what that is? A scribbled picture of the lady.
As we explore this nursery environment, we encounter the aforementioned horrifying dolls.
That's a lot
They are
of
sat down for dinner,
Gosh.
lined up in front of television sets, and arranged for tea parties. But why? Well, this floor of the nest is where we encounter the final new enemy type, a little girl with a furious temperament known as the Pretender. The developers
little girl?
Twitter describe the Pretender as the following.
It's not giving. Look, it's that. I'm not sure if that's a little girl. I think that is a old woman who happens to be really short.
This pint-sized lady of the nest loves her playthings, and anything that's not her toy doesn't last long in her nursery. The Pretender also has the ability to evaporate her prey into thin air.
What?
Seemingly absorbing the person's life force, much like the lady and later
her and the
Six
lady
did in the
definitely
story
related.
of Little Nightmares. So it seems the dolls keep this power-hungry child content, or at least most of the time they do. If she finds a single one out of place, she begins to throw a tantrum. It seems this creepy girl has the name Pretender because her entire life revolves around playing pretend with her dolls. Dolls who may be made in part from real children. Pretty twisted stuff. Around her living quarters we see many portraits of very normal looking children. These are likely pictures of the various kidnappees, who have now become playthings for the Pretender.
The daughter was in the
A
TV
statue
room.
of the Pretender shows other children bowing down to her for mercy. It seems she enjoys getting her own way and being the centre of attention at all times. One very interesting Easter egg can be found when taking a look at this picture here.
Now, who took a picture of that? Who took a picture of that and said, "Yes, I'm gonna frame it. This is it. I'm framing this. Putting it on the wall."
It appears to be the Hanging Man from Six's adventure on the moor, and beside this portrait, another shows what seems to be the same pair of legs. So that would suggest the father of the Pretender is also connected to the moor and no longer alive, explaining her isolation within the home and desire for company. We do after all run into the Pretender at the end of the game, sobbing uncontrollably on a bench overlooking the sea. A connection therefore seems likely. The second observation to be made when looking at this portrait is found when we draw our attention to the skirt and shoes the mother wears. We have seen these before, but not in a game yet released. They look a perfect match for the outfit of the teacher from the upcoming Little Nightmares 2. So it seems this girl still has a mother on the mainland who works as a teacher and
Wow. It explains why she's so spoiled. Have y'all ever ran into them kind of like them people like of authority or something like that. Someone you would think would have like a lot of discipline over their children, and their children turn out to be more rotten.
And perhaps this is why so many children find their way into this mansion. This teacher's portrait also appears during the Little Nightmares
And it
DLC,
does.
connecting her to all 3 games. After fleeing the nest with the butler in hot pursuit, the girl in the raincoat teams up with the mystery child, and the two manage to escape into the woods.
I
However,
mean,
the
that
mystery
girl was
child falls
gone.
down and is locked out of a shed the raincoat girl escapes into. Here we find a doll graveyard, full of broken and discarded dolls with
Wait. She legit closed and locked the door behind her, left her partner. How did that even happen? Because old girl was sprinting off first. How'd she get left
Please
behind?
the Pretender. After encountering the Pretender one last time, the Raincoat Girl must scale down a cliff face to the sea, and here she is joined by the return of the mystery child, who drops a boulder
she
onto the
climbing down
Pretender
like
in a
that?
bid to save her new friend. Unfortunately, the boulder doesn't kill her, and the two end up plummeting into the sea to an unknown fate. However, the floating raincoat suggests a grim end for our character. This is where the game seems to end.
yeah,
However, if we stick around for a post-credit sequence, we find the mystery girl heads down the cliff to a raft on the beach. It is therefore implied this girl has been sick the entire time. She collects up the raincoat and rides the raft out to sea, where she climbs aboard the moor, and after a brief nightmare involving the lady, awakens to begin her adventure in Little
But why
Nightmares.
did she have a nightmare of the lady?
So Very Little Nightmares indirectly tells the story of where Six came from and how she acquired her raincoat.
Because she might have seen her. First of all, that's wild. That raincoat is getting passed along. But my initial question was, why is she having nightmares of the lady? And they was in 2 different locations. However, earlier in the video, he did say that it's possible that the lady comes to the nest and visits sometimes because somebody don't scribble a little picture about it.
With the girl we played as being someone completely different. A small theory is that the girl in the raincoat somehow survived and also managed to swim aboard the moor, where she became the girl who aids both Six and the runaway boy. She does, after all, have the same haircut, although blink and you'd miss it. And we must remember she is a dab hand at surviving near impossible situations. Another theory is that the girl who helps us in Little Nightmares is an apparition, the ghost of the girl who died at sea and then went on to haunt others who ended up in a similar predicament, trying to help them from beyond the
Not the
grave.
sisterhood of the traveling raincoat.
But
That's
finally,
what
we
that
must
is.
conclude this video by briefly discussing the relationship between the nest and the moor. We established both use the same technology. Both connect via characters such as the gnomes, the lady, and the hanging man. Both imprison children for sinister gain. It seems to me as though the lady uses the nest to store prisoners, as well as keeping the lady of the house, the Pretender, happy while her mother is away. The Pretender has special powers, much like the lady, and both appear in
wouldn't even
pictures
wanna
about
have
the
children
house,
in this world the way
suggesting
they
she is
scooping
being
them up.
raised in the nest and groomed to take over the lady's position
I barely
aboard
wanna
the
have
moor
one in
when she
this-
eventually dies. After all, this environment is called the nest, and what are nests used for? Well, typically they are used by birds to raise their young until they grow strong enough to fly for themselves. So this Pretender is kept within the nest by the lady, and provided with children to test her abilities on, growing more and more powerful until one day she can inherit the moor and take her rightful place aboard it as its new ruler. Or at least,
Well,
that's my take. Feel free to let me know what you
we
think
gonna
in the
see.
comments below. And of course,
We gonna
leave a
see
like.
if that's gonna happen to the mall. If she make it to the mall, who gonna give her the news? Well, I guess the Chef Boys can. Technically, Chicken Nugget can. Still alive. So technically can. Let me see something. Cause I saw something earlier. I was scared that I was gonna get spoiled, but we passed that at this point. Yeah, we could finally explain the world of Little Nightmare. My spirit telling me no. I'm not gonna look at it. My spirit is telling me it no. My spirit telling me I'm about to get more spoilers than I don't want it. I don't want it. I definitely don't want it. Oh, thank you. This clip. So if you was in the Twitch stream last night, I kept telling y'all, if you something on my forehead, shut up. Right? It's because I have a hole in the middle of my forehead. Not in the middle of my forehead, but I have a hole in my forehead. And this hair right here is covering the hole in my forehead. So if y'all remember on Wednesday, I was like, I got a lump, like I got a knot on my forehead, right? A knot on my forehead. So after I got off stream, I got like this, like one of those eye masks you can like put in a freezer or you can put it in a microwave or whatever. So I put it in the freezer and I just like put it on my forehead and went to sleep the next day. I mean that night. The next day, that knot, it went down some. It is basically gone at this, but it went down some. But then I had this bubble of something, and the bubble burst, and now there's like. So I'm anticipating right now. I'm doing all I can. I'm just making and stuff like that. But eventually, when I do show my forehead, it's probably gonna be a dark spot right there that I'm gonna have to work on to get rid of, because that hole is. But I appreciate you. You don't know anything to hide. Probably gonna see this. You probably gonna see the same hairstyle, in a few videos. I do plan on recording some videos tomorrow. I want to have some stuff kind of ready for the holidays for y'all. I hate going to the doctor. I hate going to the doctor because it never takes. I mean, I don't feel sick. I'm not hurt or anything like that. It's just ugly. But I want to make sure I have some videos or something for not holidays. Because you know Christmas next week. Christmas next week. I literally just bought my mom a Christmas gift today. I bought that bad boy today. I mean, I feel like that's a normal response, man. You know, something going on with your you got a knot. Go to the doctor. That's just not me. I'm tired of going to the doctor. They absolutely. So yeah. Oh, I cannot wait. Y'all see this video on Monday? Yeah. I cannot wait. Thank you, True. I cannot wait till y'all see this. I'm so when I say I had a good old time playing this game, I had a good old time playing this game. If you like Parappa the Rapper and stuff like that, this is the game. This game is the closest thing I've found to Parappa the Rapper, because of course there's other like rhythm games and stuff like that out and about in the world, right? But something that was missing a little something. But this game, right? This game is the closest, and I feel like it has a lot of to right there, right there. It's such a good game. I can't wait for y'all to see that. Also, when I post my weekly schedule now, I will include on the weekly schedule, and I do appreciate everybody who came out to the Twitch stream. I know last night was a hot mess, y'all. When I say we were struggling before the stream started, so I was on my way to Curly's house. She texted me like, for some reason the game won't display on the screen. I don't know what's going on. All I did was plug it up the same way we've been plugging it up, and it ain't working. So it started with that. Then it was the mic. Then it was the game sound for the game. Then it was the camera. All this is happening before stream. All this is happening before stream, right? Then we get on the stream, and y'all see all the foolishness, chaos, and tomfoolery. And then we went back to look at like the playback of that stream, and the way y'all legit, I don't know if it's B, but y'all let me get away with murder, because the way that audio was sounding last night, and y'all ain't saying nothing. I think being the only one who said a little something, he was like, "Yeah, I hear y'all," and some static. And yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It it sound bad to us, and we're like, oh my gosh, because we want to put out the best quality we can possibly put out. Yes, that's Curly. And you know what? Thank you for saying something true. We never say our names in the stream. We've never said it's in the about us section, like the names. But you don't know, if you don't know who we are, you don't know who is who. So that I'm gonna talk to her about that. Having a meeting on Sunday, and we're gonna be talking all through the week, talking to her basically all day today, through text messages and phone and stuff. But yes, that is Curly. That is Curly. So you didn't even miss her name. She's never said her name. We've never said our names on the street. Yeah, so it was in and out, and then like towards the end where we basically cut off, it got worse. And so it would happen like if we were talking, and then the mic would peak, stuff like that, because I was gonna edit some of that today, and I was like, audio wild. Like, this audio is wild. So yeah, it's just a few things we need to fix, do some tweaks and stuff like that. How she set you up? Cause she was never imposter. When you was imposter, how did she set you up? I don't remember. How did she set you up? How did she set you up? I don't remember. Right. I will never forget you. Are y'all gonna watch the Yu Yu Hakusho live action? I'm watching it right after stream. And you know what? And you know what? True. Like in theory, when you hear it in theory, it sounds easy, right? Because depending on how you do it, right? So if you're doing it from from your console, just stream right from your console, right? But then it be weird audio issues, weird camera issues, and all kind of stuff. And then with us, we have a very simple setup. It's not like we got all these bells and whistles and stuff like that. We basically plugging up like 4 things into a little laptop, and things just go awry. Oh man. She was getting, but to be fair, true, she was getting killed all the time, and she was usually the first or second to die. She was usually the first and second person to die. The game was setting you up low key because they definitely kept making you imposter. They definitely kept making you imposter. We need to play it again. I also want to play Lethal Company. I definitely want to play that. That looks like that's chaotic fun. It looks real chaotic. Let me. Can I do that now? Why? I'm gonna make sure I'm put these people channels in my description box after the stream. I'm not trying to have no problems. I'm not trying. But yes, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. And you guys will have it really did. It really did. And you guys will have a video on Monday. It's a premiere. So I will be in the chat with you guys, viewing with you guys. Stuff like that. It's just I need to together. I need to get some things together. Between my stuff and me and Curly stuff. Definitely I just need time. I just need I think it's only you be missing out, friend. When is you getting your hey? We're talking about this piece how many but everybody have a good Friday. Everybody have a good weekend. Everybody have a good weekend. Make sure you replenish yourself. Da 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 da. I know some people work on Friday and Saturdays, and some people off on Sunday. On Sunday, get it together. Get your energy together. All this other stuff. There's something going on. Something going on. Something in the air. It is something in the air. Okay, so y'all be safe and be all right this weekend. All right.